this one's from The Herd. That's @The Herd. It's Coach Prime. And what's going on with Coach Prime? Is he heading to Dallas, Pete? Is he going to go with his son Shadur, wherever Shadur or Travis Hunter go? Well, let's listen to this opinion at The Herd and then decide.
Even if Deion were to leave, he would be viewed with the utmost amount of love. I asked him point blank last week on Friday, do you want to go to the NFL?
Great
he said
analyst,
no.
by the
and he
way.
said, my purpose is to be a coach, but it is more so to mentor young men. And I don't believe I could do that as my calling and my purpose at the NFL level that I can do that at the college level. We had a long discussion on Friday about Warren Sapp, and Deion said something that was profound and absolutely accurate. And he said the only issue with Warren was that he didn't have a purpose after he got done playing.
Look at that smile.
We gave him that purpose. And then you see Warren on the sideline, and his eyes are big, and he's got the headset on, and he's in it, man, with those kids. And that is something very profound for any of us who have played, athletics at a decently high level, and certainly some of these guys that have gold jackets. And all of a sudden, when the music stops and that merry-go-round stops and you're not Warren Sapp, the defensive tackle, or Deion Sanders, the two-sport star, you've got to find something in your life.
You're just
and
Mr.
some
Sapp.
calling and some purpose. Deion found that as a coach, and he's a damn good coach.
I love it, John. You always come up with these things. I think it's fantastic, and he's so right. And as a former NFL guy, I can tell you, when you leave the NFL, you've got to find out who you really are, because that ends somewhere close to 30 years old or maybe a little bit longer, right? But the reality is you're no longer the NFL star, right? You're Warren Sapp. You were making gazillions of dollars while you were playing, but now nobody cares. Now it's the next guy who filled in for Warren Sapp. All of that, including Tom Brady. I mean, at some point, now he is a stud. Everybody knows who he is, and they appreciate him, and he's more than just the football player. But that's because he's a quarterback. Let's be honest. But, you have to find what you want to do outside of just being an analyst for ESPN, ABC, whoever it is. And it's a difficult thing. Your ego is still there, and you're trying to find out, well, what am I going to do for the next 30 years or 40 years or whatever it is? And you know what? He found exactly what he wanted. That smile, like you said, John, on Warren Sapp's face standing there, that's exactly, he is doing what he wants to do, and he's helping young men become better people, but also better football players, and maybe they get the opportunity in the NFL. And nowadays, they make a lot of money. They really do.
They do. All right, Pete, what else do you got on your Red Zone Sports?
All right, we'll go real quick on this first one, just because I think it's kind of fun. I wanted to call this Separation Saturday, because this Saturday is a big deal. I mean, this is where those that are on the cusp better come through, and those who are on the cusp from the upside, they better come through. And what do I mean by that? Well, your Colorado team, John, Deion Sanders, this Colorado team, they got 2 games left. They're 8-2. They're sitting right on the edge as a potential as a Big 12 candidate to get into this college football playoff, right? I mean, they've got Kansas this week, Oklahoma State next week. You've also got a team like Indiana, who's number 5 in the country, believe it or not, in football, not basketball. They're 10-0. They're going to the shoe at Ohio State. They've got 1 loss. Their 1 loss is to the number 1 team in the country, Oregon, and they're pretty incredible. I mean, so if Indiana can really stand up pretty well with them, John, I think that they will be a part of this whole thing. If they get slaughtered, if they get beat 45-10 or something like that, it's going to drop them pretty quick. And they still will have a 10-1 record, but it's going to drop them pretty substantially, I think. But they've been on a roll, and I don't see that happening. I love the fact that BYU, with their quarterback, is going to be going up against a team that nobody thought of all year until now, Arizona State. So there's a lot of different games that are going on there. Does Boise State get in there? This is all a very complicated thing, John, when you really look at it. Who's going to make it in there? Who are the locks to get their first week bye and all the rest of that? I find this going to be really a lot of fun. I don't know that I like the fact that by the end, if you are one of those teams that has to start off right away in the playoff, that you finish with 17, 18 games for the season. That's a heck of a lot for a college athlete, but it is making the game that much better. And the last thing I'll say is you've got 4 teams of the top 6 coming from the Big Ten. I did not say the SEC. I said the Big Ten. So for all those that only live and die with the SEC, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be offensive, but I'm just telling you, the Big Ten ain't half bad either, because I was an old Big Ten guy. What do you think, John? Is there somebody I left out that you think maybe we should kind of cover? Maybe you want to color a little bit more Colorado. I don't know.
Well, Texas is still a great team, and they're 9-1. You mentioned that, Pete. I was really impressed with their win over Utah, Colorado's win over Utah. It's not the same Utah team that beat Caleb Williams and the USC Trojans 3 times in 2 years. It's not that same team, but it is a really good football powerhouse these days, Utah is. So that's an impressive win. Maybe one of their most impressive wins, to me anyway. But I think what's happening this week, Pete, in Oregon is probably not real fun for Dan Lanning or the Oregon Ducks. And I bet he is making them watch that Wisconsin game again and again and again, because they stunk the place up. Yep. They got away with one there. Yeah. And good teams do that. Good teams win when they play badly. And somebody has to step up and they finally get the W. But that was a horrible game, because that is not a great Wisconsin team. I don't care what the adversity is. I don't care if the whole team had salmonella poisoning. I don't know how you barely escape Wisconsin Badger team that has been beaten by as many as 40 points this year by Iowa. So, and Iowa, folks. Iowa ain't a great offensive team. So, but they beat them, I think, 52-10 or something.
Yeah.
So, if I'm Dan Lanning, I am showing them that game and saying, is this what you want for your legacy? That you guys went 11 or 10-0 and then you lost to Wisconsin? They didn't lose, folks, but they almost did. And they've got an easy Washington team coming up. Washington is not the same at all this year, but they can't afford to look past them like they must have looked past Wisconsin.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. The only caveat to what you just said about Colorado is one thing. This was the 3rd string quarterback playing for Utah, 3rd string. So It wasn't the Utah team, like you said, from last year, but it wasn't even the Utah team from earlier in the season from a health perspective. And that's nobody's fault. That you can't control that. I'm just pointing it out that, that was a great win, but it wasn't the same team because of the fact that quarterback was that freshman who's the 3rd stringer. All right, John, how about a little NFL? Now, I wanted to talk about what do you think of this? This is the biggest weekend, I think, and there's one team that stands out that I look at and I go, I cannot believe their record. The 49ers. They are 5-5 right now this year, John. 5-5. Green Bay Packers is who they play this week in Green Bay. And I'm looking out my window right now here in Minnesota, John. It's about 34 degrees. There's snow on the ground. It's sticking into the grass. And the Niners are going to have to play Green Bay this weekend. So Green Bay 7-3. They're playing really good football. The Niners don't play terrible football. They've just had a bite of the injury bug like I've never seen before in a team. And it's been brutal. But if they lose this one to Green Bay, which is a high probability, I would say, they got to fly here. They got to do this and that. And I just wonder, at the beginning of the year, even in the middle of the year, I was like, well, they'll make it. They're doing okay. They still look great when they're fully healthy. But daggone it, John, the 49ers, if they go to 5-6 and they are the bottom of the West right now, and you've got Arizona, really? Arizona is the top of that conference division? Holy smokes. I mean, this gets pretty interesting pretty fast. I don't know what you think about that, but do the Niners then just have to flush it if they go to 5-6? I mean, are they really even going to make the playoffs, John, if they lose to Green Bay this week?
Sure, they could go on a run, Pete. You and I both know that if they went on a 3 or 4 game run, even if they, and I'm not saying they are going to lose to the Packers, but even if they did lose to the Packers and they went to 5-6, go on a 4 game run, you're 10-6. Are you going to be in the hunt? Yeah, I think they will be. But it is going to be, like you say, the injury bug has bitten them hard. And I think they regret losing Armstead, Pete, because they need a little more on the defensive front than they've got great rush guys on the outsides, but that same push up the middle hasn't been there this year.
No. And the last thing, and I'll say it just really quick, and I'll throw it out there to you. Is Jim Harbaugh the best coach ever in the NFL? And I know everybody will laugh about that, right? I mean, oh no, how can you say that? It's got to be, this guy or that guy or this guy. How about this? Are they the best brothers ever to coach in the NFL? That's 100%. There's no way. They're playing each other this week. And oh, by the way, when Jim Harbaugh took over the Chargers, John, they lost 8 of the last 9 football games that they played last year with the Chargers. He didn't get a new quarterback. He did a draft. He put people together. He went through free agency. Jim Harbaugh, a Michigan guy, and I'm talking positive about a Michigan guy, which is just pathetic for me to do, and it's tough. But I will say this. He's the best coach I have ever seen at college or NFL. And if you want to combine them, there's nobody even close. Because you go back, Nick Saban, the NFL didn't really treat him too well, John. But he did a great job at the college level, and I love Nick Saban. You could go through a lot of different names. I'm not going to do that, but I'm just going to say this.
Lou Holtz.
Yeah.
How long did he last in the pros?
Yeah. When you look at a lot of these college guys, they just can't make it. Well, Jim Harbaugh did, and he did it at every level. He did it at the smaller level when he was at the University of San Diego. He did it at Stanford. He did it with the 49ers. He did it with Michigan Wolverines. And, oh, by the way, and San Francisco. He's doing it pretty nice, I'd say, right now with the Chargers, because that's a team that could be in the playoffs pretty easily, I'd say, based upon their record. And if they can take on his brother and beat them, that could be the next lift that puts them in the AFC. They will be one of the leaders and maybe have a lot of home games if they keep on winning in the playoffs.
Yep. Real quick, they're 7-3. If he beats his brother, that's a big if. Because Perryman, their big stud on defense, has pulled his groin pretty bad, Pete, as you know. So he's doubtful, they say, and I don't think he can play this week. It's doubtful he can play next week because if you come back too soon from that, you're going to have problems. But that team could be 8-3. If they're 8-3, ain't nobody want to play the LA Chargers. I'll tell you that, because if they get to 8-3, they are on a hellacious roll. And, just Herbert is looking like the guy that everybody always thought he was, Pete. I'll end it with that.